Thumbnail. Hi guys, my name is Isabella and welcome to my video. Okay, so today I will be teaching you guys about the Articles of Confederation, more specifically the We the People Unit 2 Lesson 11. How did the Articles of Confederation organize our national government?
So before you get started, I just want to say that
I do not take credit for any of the information that will be given in this video. Any information that I will be telling to you was from the We the People book. None of this came from me.
all credits go to it. No copyright laws, like don't sue me, please.
And we'll get started. Basically today I will be teaching you about how the states governed themselves before and during the war against Great Britain while we were trying to fight for independence. And we'll be learning about the system of government in our first constitution in the United States. So let's get started. So as you know, in 1776, the American colonies were trying to get independence from Great Britain because the British Parliament had passed several acts which would be later known as the Acts of Parliament. Mostly they were just made up of like taxes like the Sugar Act and Stamp Act, but some of them held qualities that were forced onto the colonies without their consent, such as the Quartering Act or the Coercive Acts. The main reason why the colonies wanted to break free from Great Britain was because these acts were being imposed on them without their representation or their consent, leading to the battle cry,
No taxation without representation.
Another reason was because the King of Great Britain, throughout these acts, had violated their rights numerous times, so they were pissed off. I would agree too. During the war against Great Britain, each state was like its own little nation with a little constitution and government. Complete, they were kind of united, but they still decided to be their own nations. The founders decided that they needed some type of national government, which is the organization of central political authority in a nation. The political organization of a nation. They decided they needed a national government because it would unify the states, they could conduct war, control trade, negotiate with other nations, and they needed to be united for the world to see, so like the world wouldn't think they were weak and decide to wage war. Smart. On June 7, 1776, a man named Richard Henry Lee went to his second Continental Congress and introduced two proposals. One was to gain independence from Great Britain, and the other one was to come up with a new national government. Surprise, surprise, both were adopted. Thank God for this man. But of course, it was a hard process trying to come up with the Articles of Confederation because, we just had fought a war, we're trying to, get ourselves together. So there were some concerns, but we made it. Mostly, they had many concerns, such as what type of government we should have, what kind of system, or how much power it should hold. So that was what was concerning for them. The first problem was that they feared a tyrannical central government, because if we had a really strong central government, it could violate our rights, just like King George had done before the American Revolution.
They weren't stupid.
They want to fight another war and have to come up with a new government and go through all of this just because they chose to have a strong central government. Basically, it's a breakup letter, you broke up with someone, but you decide to meet someone else and date them who's exact same as them. They had to be smart about this. Another concern was that the states worried that states with more population and wealth would have more power in Congress than states with less wealth and population, because the big states want representation based on the population, while the smaller states wanted an equal vote. So they worried about that. They didn't want the states' interests to be at risk. Leading to the Articles of Confederation. Our first constitution of the United States was the Articles of Confederation. They were adopted by Congress in 1777, but they weren't ratified by the states until 1781. As I said before, they did have many concerns. So because of this, under the Articles of Confederation, The founders gave us a weak national government, so there weren't any concerns. The central government was simply
a Congress,
a legislature. There were no judicial or executive branches, so pretty simple, but they would later find that this would be concerning in some
areas.
The Congress was made weak with limited powers. It left most of the powers of government to the
states, and
they didn't really have much control over the state governments or their citizens within them, so Congress really didn't have that much power. To solve any concerns about representation, Congress gave each state one vote, so everything could be equal, and then there was that. So even though, as you may already know or not, the Articles of Confederation weren't the biggest success, but they did come up but there were some good things that came out of it, One of the things that came out of it was that we were able to successfully wage war against Great Britain. Another thing that came was that it was able to successfully negotiate the Treaty of Paris, which was the peace treaty for the American Revolution. It provided that the states be aware of the other states' laws within them, and it successfully passed the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. The Northwest Ordinance was an important law that prohibited slavery and allowed for the new for any new organization or the bringing in of new states. But there's still a long list of all the things that the Articles of Confederation failed to do. One being Congress did not have the power to tax, or meaning and because of that they
didn't have any money and didn't have the
power to raise money. Congress could not make the states live up to any trade agreements with other nations, and because of this, the other countries didn't really want to trade with the United States. Congress could not regulate trade within the states, and they control it, and Congress had no power over the state governments or citizens. And because of all of this, the citizens felt like their interests are being put at risk. Because of the fact that Congress could not tax, they didn't have any money, which meant this may not seem like a big issue, but because they had fought in such a huge war, they needed money at first, so they had sent Benjamin Franklin to negotiate with other countries to give them loans. Mostly they got loans from France and Spain, who were huge enemies of Great Britain. Of course, they had to pay back the loans, but since they didn't have any source of income, they were found in debt from other nations. By 1796, a lot of Americans
were in financial trouble.
Business failed, trade suffered, and many citizens were
struggling.
Soldiers who had fought in the war had still not been paid, and Congress had no control over the country.
It was intense. It was a hot mess. Needs to be fixed soon.
Mostly, it was the farmers in Massachusetts who were in great debt, and those farmers just happened
to be soldiers who fought in the war.
Basically, the states had heavily taxed its citizens, and because of that, they were mostly in debt. Farmers could not pay off the taxes or any of their other debts, so the state governments had taken away their farms. Because of this led to a series of events called Shays' Rebellion, that would later convince Americans that there needed to be a change in government. Shays' Rebellion was when local farmers, who used to be soldiers, were under the leadership of Daniel Shays, who also used to be an ex-soldier, and then they went to the courts where cases were heard to prevent the authorities from taking away their lands. This action led to many other states. In January 1787, Daniel Shays led 2,000 rebels to the federal arsenal to take away their weapons. They were later controlled by the state militia, but people still were concerned that this action would be repeated in other states if there wasn't a change in national government. So in January 1787, Virginia had invited all the states to send delegates to talk about this issue. Unfortunately, only 5 of the states came, and then delegates figured out that since there were so many little states, they couldn't do anything. But they were aware about this concern, and they sent a report to Congress saying that they needed to have a convention of all the states to fix this. After much debate, Congress invited all the states to a convention in Philadelphia to discuss this. And later on, this convention would
rewrite the entire Constitution. We are done.
And now we're done. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if not, at least I hope you learned something. And if you didn't,
sorry.
bye.